So I've been getting back into eyeshadow lately, and that makes me so happy. I know that eyeshadow as a whole isn't like super trendy these days. And for the past few years, it's not really been like the focus of my makeup routine. I haven't been as excited about it as I have other things. But I feel like over the summertime, I made like a conscious effort to incorporate color back into my eye makeup. And I've had so much fun. Like, I actually like sitting down and doing my eyeshadow again. And I am so ready for like fall eyeshadow and fall makeup as a whole. Obvious disclaimer, you can wear whatever makeup you want, no matter what season it is. But when I think of the fall, I specifically think of these palettes and these color stories. So I wanted to share some of my favorites with you. These are the palettes I'll be reaching for over the next few months. A lot of these are older products you might already have in your collection. So if that's the case, hopefully this can inspire you to break them out, recreate some looks using them. And then I think I have like two, maybe three newer eyeshadow palette launches that I think are definitely worth trying if you're looking to add a new palette to your collection too. Okay, so every year I recommend the Natasha Denona bronze palette as like a really good option for fall. And I definitely think that's still the case, but I wanted to switch it up and recommend something different from the brand. So I wanted to go with this one, the Yucca palette. This actually launched a few months ago, but I think it is the perfect option for fall if you're looking for something a little more unique. It's just such an interesting color story. Now, I think you're going to look at this and either love it or hate it. I've seen people who are like, that is the ugliest palette I've ever seen. And I can totally see that perspective too, but I think it is so interesting. I love a good green eyeshadow look, but a lot of my green palettes or the shadows within or the green shadows I own in different palettes end up looking pretty similar on the eyes, whereas this one has some uniqueness to it. The lighter shadows are really interesting. I love wearing like these lighter greens all over the lid and then this deeper green on the lower lash line. I'm pretty sure I have videos on my channel using most, if not all of these palettes. So I'll link videos below if you want to see these palettes in action or you want inspiration, but it is such a gorgeous option. The metallics in here are beautiful. They're so intense, really rich, very vibrant. They look amazing mixed with the shadows in here, but I also like using them alongside of other palettes I have in my collection. So I don't know, something about this color story I feel like is just perfect for the fall season. If you love greens and you love like golds and silvers and oranges, it's a lot of fun. And it's just kind of inspired me to incorporate color back into my makeup routine. And I always love using it. Like, it's a palette that just makes me happy when I'm using it. If you're looking for a unique color story and that one kind of speaks to you, but you don't want to spend the money on that because maybe you won't wear those shades enough or you just prefer not to spend that much money on an eyeshadow palette, then I do recommend this one from NYX. This is the Ultimate Paradise Shock color palette. So it comes with shadows that are kind of in the same color family, but I think overall this one is a little more vibrant. There are definitely some similarities, some differences. Let me hold them up next to each other. Here's what they look like next to each other. So you can see they both have warm tones, they both have greens, they have really pretty intense metallics. I think the oranges and like the peach and red shades in here are a little more saturated, and it doesn't maybe have quite as many green tones and a few more neutrals, but overall, I feel like they have a similar vibe. NYX has definitely improved their eyeshadow formula. I think for a little while, NYX wasn't a brand that I really considered when it came to eyeshadow because there were other drugstore brands out there that had better quality shadows. But I think the drugstore brands as a whole have really stepped it up when it comes to eyeshadows. Like, I have more than I'm going to share in today's video, but I think this one is a fun option if you want like a little bit of everything, like intense sparkling metallics, a few pops of color, and then a few great staple neutrals. And I like this color story. I think it is so much fun. So this one's another great option for the fall season. Another palette that I think is a great option if you kind of want everything within the one palette is this one from ColourPop. This has been a favorite of mine since they launched it. I think this actually came out, I want to say like 2 years ago. So I might have mentioned it in my previous like fall palettes videos, but it is so good. It's like the ultimate fall palette in my opinion. And there is a chance a lot of you already own this one because it has been out for a little while. This palette has the most gorgeous range of jewel tones. So you get the greens in here, just like the other two palettes I mentioned, as well as like those warm pops of orange and red, a row of neutrals, but on top of that, you get the blues and the purples too. And this makes it so easy because if you don't know what colors to pair together, you can just go right down the row and just stick with the green row or just stick with the blue row and so on. It is amazing. The quality is so good. And like I said, it's like the ultimate fall palette. You get so many shade options for I think $35. I do have an affiliate code with ColourPop. It's just my name, Andrea. So if you use that at checkout, you can get 10% off your order as well. But I see this palette on sale fairly often. Like they run a lot of promotions on their website, so you can probably even get it for a little bit of a less expensive price. But really the value is there. The quality is so good, and I don't know, this is like my ultimate fall palette. So I love it because you can really create so many looks with just this one option. So if you're not really into colorful eyeshadow, like if you're not going to wear the greens or the really intense oranges or reds for the fall season, I have a few that I wanted to share with you. Again, this one is from Natasha Denona. I wanted to mention this one as well. You know, this kind of strikes me as like an all year palette. Like you could really reach for this in the fall or the winter, spring, summer, it doesn't matter. And that's the case with any palette, but I think cool tones during the fall are so pretty, especially paired with like a really beautiful purple toned berry lip. Like I feel like this palette with an intense dark berry would be so stunning. For some reason, Wet n Wild's Sugar Plum pops into my mind. Like that was my favorite for so many years, and I don't even know if they still make it. But I'm wearing this one on my eyes today. I have this shade in the crease, this shade in the crease too, and then this one all over the lid. I do have a couple of videos on my channel using this one as well. It is a little bit of a newer launch, and I know it's getting a ton of hype on social media, and there are so many neutral palettes coming out lately, but I like this one because it has like a very pretty, cooler, rosy vibe to it. So it's a little bit different than your typical warm toned neutral palette. Also, the shimmers in here are kind of what make the palette for me. I know Patrick Ta just launched like a fully matte neutral palette, so did Danessa Myricks, and those look nice, but the reason why I like this one is because the shimmers in here really make the look. And on top of that, like I said, it does have like that rosy hue overall. So I think that makes it so much fun for the fall. When I incorporate cooler tones into my looks, I don't always want like a grayed out look or a silvery or like very bland taupe eyeshadow look. I want something a little more fun, even if it is neutral. And I feel like this palette is the perfect spin on a neutral palette. So again, if like the really warm orangey reds aren't for you, this could be a really good option. Sometimes when it comes to fall makeup, I do keep my eyeshadow more on the subtle side. Not usually, like usually I will go for more of an intense look, but if I'm wearing a really intense lip, like a deep red or like a plum, I usually do keep the eyes a little more simple. So if you are looking for a fully matte shadow, or a fully matte palette, I do have one at an affordable price point. This is the Milani Gilded Mini in Whiskey Business. So like I said, like Patrick Ta launched one, Danessa Myricks, Makeup by Mario has one, but you don't have to spend that much money to get a good option. You don't even have to buy any of the high-end palettes I'm sharing. There are a ton of great affordable ones, including this one. This one just has 6 neutral eyeshadows. You can do something really light and soft. You can pull in the dark brown and really smoke it out. And I think this one's great. I use this all the time, so it's definitely a good option for fall if you do tend to keep your eyeshadow more simple and you like the focus to be on other areas of your makeup. Let me highlight a few more really affordable options. Catrice launched these $6 eyeshadow palettes earlier this year, and every single time I use them, I am blown away by the fact that they are $6. This one specifically is the Hot Mocha palette. I used it quite a bit during the summertime, but I feel like it's a really good option for fall as well, or like summer transitioning into fall. You do get a lot of those staple warm tone shadows, but if you cover up like the top row, I don't know how to do that. I can't figure out how to do it. Okay, if you cover up the top row and just use the bottom row, you get a little bit more of like a toned down neutral smoky look, or you can incorporate like this really pretty orangey red too. This formula is really silky, very smooth, but you're not going to get like intense color payoff with it, which I know a lot of people do prefer for like day-to-day wear. So I do recommend this one, but they have other color stories too. If you are looking for eyeshadow that is a little more like saturated, more intense on the eyes, the Patrick Ta Major Dimension 2 is one of my favorite palettes of all time. The new Patrick Ta like fully matte palette didn't do it for me. I was waiting and waiting to see Major Dimension 3 because I heard rumors that it was coming this year. And I think like a lot of you, I thought it was going to be kind of like a darker, cool toned, smoky palette with some really pretty icy shimmers. I feel like the second half of the new Fully Matte palette mixed with some cool tones in there, like a cooler brown, like an icy silver lavender shimmer. That would be amazing from Patrick Ta. Anyway, Major Dimension 3 just didn't do it for me. I like Patrick Ta's shimmer shadows. I like his matte shadows too. I could really take or leave the cream shadows. They're fine, but I don't wear them super often. But I think the metallic shadows really are so vibrant and so intense and rich on the eyes. So the fact that Major Dimension 3 is missing those is just like such a wasted opportunity in my opinion. But I'm sure there are people out there who enjoy the new one. That being said, I really like the second one. I think the shades in here are so stunning. If you cover up the very front of this palette, really even like the first 6 shadows, that quad right there is so perfect for really rich, smoky fall eyeshadow looks. And if you want something a little more subtle, you can use the first 6 shades in the front. Like I said, there are 2 cream shadows in here. I'll use these as like a base for some of the shimmers, and that makes the shimmers look a lot more vibrant and intense. So they're nice to have, but again, if you're looking for like rich shadows that are a little more intense and vibrant on the eyes, highly recommend this one. Patrick Ta palettes are expensive. Like this is $70. It's more than Natasha Denona. So in my opinion, this is worth the $70, but only if you like to splurge on eyeshadow. You don't have to. It's not like there's not other options out there that are less expensive, but I will say I've gotten so much use out of this one because even though I'm sharing it in like a fall eyeshadow palette video, I also love using that during the spring and summer too. I don't know exactly when this palette launched. I feel like Huda Beauty tends to launch eyeshadow palettes kind of around the holiday season. So I don't know if this was last year's holiday palette or the one before that, but I still reach for it. It's the Huda Beauty Empowered palette. I almost mentioned Naughty Nude. Naughty Nude is probably like my favorite Huda Beauty palette of all time, but this one is so unique and really interesting. This kind of strikes me as more of like an ideal holiday palette. So the first half of the palette, especially like those warm tones, I think are really nice for like easy everyday fall looks. This half of the palette, I think, is a little more just like wintry. Like I love those cooler tones. I feel like you can combine shades like the gold and the purple for more of a unique look. And it's just kind of fun. It's like a different spin on a neutral palette because a lot of the neutrals in here are really rich, intense metallics. The reason why I love Huda Beauty palettes is because there are so many textures in them. And I feel like Natasha Denona is kind of like that's been the case with Natasha Denona more lately too. You don't just get your standard mattes and metallics. You get like foiled metallics, you get satins, you get shimmers with glitter in them, you get a lot. So I just think this is a really fun option too. I think this is more of like a late fall, early winter palette for me personally, but it is a really, really beautiful color story. This was kind of one of the it palettes last fall season, but even though it came out last year, I still recommend using it. If you already own it, break it back out because this has the perfect color story for the fall. It's the Tarte Maneater, what is this one called? Maneater After Dark palette. This incorporates everything that I want in a fall palette without the emphasis being so much on like the orange tones or the red tones. I love that there are so many berries down here because again, when I think of fall makeup, like I do think of like berry toned looks and I love pink. Pink has been like my favorite eyeshadow color forever, but especially this year. I think I said in an earlier video, like after all of the Barbie marketing, I was all about the pink makeup more than ever. So this has some really pretty pink shades in here. I also like the green. And then this does have like a lot of lighter, softer colors, which is kind of nice too, because I feel like a lot of the palettes I shared in today's video lean very heavily into like the rich, more dramatic side. So it's kind of nice to have some lighter shades in here too. Again, this is a palette that a lot of you might already own, but if not, I still think it is a really fun option. Okay, just a few more things to share with you. These CoverGirl Clean Fresh Clean Color palettes are really nice. They're a little more expensive for a drugstore palette, but typically you can get them on sale. Like CoverGirl's always on sale, like buy one, get one half off at the drugstore, and sometimes on Ulta's website as well. So these come with 4 shadows. If you're not someone who wants like a palette as big as the Tarte palette or the ColourPop palette, you want like a simple quad, these are really nice. Within this quad, you get different textures. So like this one is spiced copper. It has a matte shadow, it has like a satin shadow, a matte with shimmer in it, and then a full-on kind of like gritty metallic. But all of the shades together look so good on the eyes, or you can always incorporate another palette as well. This one is Golden Toffee. This one's a little more toned down, so not quite as intense, but again, you get like a shimmer, a very rich shimmer, and then you get the matte with shimmer, and then like the foiled metallic as well. These two specifically are a little bit newer to my collection. I purchased them with fall in mind, but I originally tried the formula like way back in the spring, maybe even in the winter time, and I reach for this formula all the time. The last thing I want to mention is actually another ColourPop palette. So if you don't need a palette quite as big as It's a Mood, I get it. Like, this is a lot of eyeshadow. ColourPop has a ton of really nice, smaller, curated 9-pan palettes. And there were a few that I wanted to mention in today's video. I almost mentioned, so I guess honorable mention, Lucky Penny. That one has a bunch of gorgeous colors. Wine Down, or is it called Wine and Only? They have some palette that has the word wine in it that I love so much. Honestly, Going Coconuts is just like a staple neutral palette, but I specifically wanted to mention this one because if you are looking for like that typical rich orangey red color story, but you don't need like a super big palette with a ton of options, Rock On is really nice. So it's been a little while since I've tried a new ColourPop palette, and the quality of this one is great. Again, there are some different textures going on. Even within this 9-pan palette, you get your staple matte shadows, but some of the shimmers in here are very creamy, almost like a rich metallic, and then some of them are more of a satin. This one up here, I think it's kind of like a, not a matte with a shimmer in it, but it's like a very subtle shimmer shadow. I don't even, how do I even explain this one? Is it a matte with shimmer in it? I don't know. Like, it has almost like a little bit of a sheen to it. Maybe it is a matte with shimmer. Either way, that looks really pretty just all over the lid on days where I do want something a little more subtle paired with like this shadow or even this shadow right here. So if you do like that typical warm orangey red look during the fall, this is a nice palette and it's more on the affordable side. Okay, I think that's everything I'll share with you in today's video. Just a few of the palettes that I'm excited to be using over the next few months. I would love to know what your ultimate like fall eyeshadow palette is, whether it is an older favorite or something newer. I think it's just kind of fun if you're into eyeshadow as well to see what you guys are using and loving. Please let me know. I'm just excited for fall makeup and fall content. So if there's anything you want to see on my channel or on Instagram or TikTok, please let me know in the comment section below. Maybe I can do one on like fall lipsticks or lip products. I feel like that would be fun too. But I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye.